What's up, freaks? And a warm welcome to the Freak Show's very first Fury Warrior PvP guide, where I cover what gear, stats, talents, traits, and add-ons that I personally use on this Execute Fiend sitting here before us. And a quick disclaimer before I jump into this portal of how-to madness. I cannot guarantee you that this is the optimal Fury Warrior build for PvP. It's basically what I've constructed over the time playing this character throughout patch 8.3, and the build that I prefer to keep working on to see what kind of work it can really do in Battlegrounds and in 2v2 arenas. And you should expect to see this warrior in some 2v2 action on the channel soon, so hit the subscribe if that's something you'd be interested in. That being said, before we dive into the realm of execution, I'd like to give a shout out to those of you that have been watching my videos and giving me positive feedback on them. It means the world to me, and it definitely motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. So thank you, thank you. And I'd also like to note that the Freak Show is very close to 100 subscribers, and that is one of the reasons why I'm flopping this guide out there. So again, thank you so much for that. It's a goal I've wanted to hit for quite some time now. Alright, first up, we got talents. Let's jump into our talents here. This is what I usually run in Battlegrounds, and that's what the main focus of this video is on. Battlegrounds. So, I run a healing build here. I use fresh meat for the increased chance of enrage and healing for 20% more with every bloodthirst. That is really good with double time and furious charge. And that's what I always run in Battlegrounds pretty much. I run these three right here along with sudden death. I've never ran furious slash. I'm not sure how that would work, but I like my random executes, so I'll stick to sudden death no matter what. Yeah, healing build, fresh meat, double time, and furious charge, huge synergy there with thirst for battle. This is really good to use for getting away from like scary situations when you're stacking Death Wish. You know, you charge away from groups that are doing big damage on you or something like that. Like say you're overextending and everyone's going on to you, they see your stacks of Death Wish, and so you turn around, you charge to someone that's also overextending on their side. Like say in Eye of the Storm, for example, you're in mid, you're going, you know, to the back trying to kill their healers with your stacks. If people start getting onto you and you need to get out of there because you're taking a lot of damage, use your double charges to get out of there. And heal after each charge, get your movement speed so you can't be snared, you can't be rooted and all that, because you're immune to snares during that 2 seconds. I'm not sure if you're immune to roots, but you're immune to snares. So that's huge to use. But yeah, that's really good for mobility and staying alive. Survival is really key when you're using Death Wish. So, yeah. That being said, damaging talents. Down here we got Carnage, Dragon Roar, and Siegebreaker. That's what I usually run. I'm curious to try Frothing Berserker with Siegebreaker. I wonder how that would do. If I ran Frothing Berserker, I would take Enduring Rage so that I can keep my Enrage up while I'm trying to build my Rage all the way back up to 95, because that's how much a Rampage costs when you're running Frothing Berserker. So that's what I would run if I ran Frothing Berserker. If you want to try that, definitely go Enduring Rage. Maybe over something like Master and Commander. If you want to keep your Death Wish, take it over Master and Commander so that you can just be a complete glass cannon. That's what you want to do if you want to run. But like I said, I like running Carnage. You get that more enrages more often, and the base damage is increased by 15%. So major. Dragon Roar, that's a lot more fun to me than Bladestorm, but Bladestorm is really good for when you're like doing big AoE damage. Like if you're in an Arathi Basin or an Eye of the Storm, somewhere where there's a lot of team fights, Bladestorm can be really good. But I like running Dragon Roar just because you do an instant burst of damage, and I've literally hit crits for like 80k to 130k with Dragon Roar, so yeah, it's pretty satisfying to do that in one button instantly. And Siegebreaker. That is a rotational ability every 30 seconds. It's really good to use as you're building up your Rage. You know, I'll get into rotation later, but that's what I like to use for talents right there. Picture it, screenshot it, whatever you want to do, you know. That's what I use for Battlegrounds. So, that being said, next we can move on to gear, Azerite traits, essences, and stats. So for Azerite traits, in my helmet I have Unbridled Ferocity, one of them. In my other pieces, I have no Unbridled Ferocity. Take note of that because you only need one of those. You just want that Recklessness chance, and it buffs your damage of Rampage, which is nice. But every time you Rampage, you get an 8% chance to proc Recklessness, which is a really good trait. It's pretty much baseline. You want that as a Fury Warrior no matter what. No matter what kind of build you are. Now, one thing I'd like to touch on is most people stack as many Cold Steel Hot Bloods as they can, and they stack crit as high as they can. This build is different. I stack Mastery for big executes and big Dragon Roars and big Blood of the Enemy. That's why I stack Mastery. I don't really care about consistent damage. I really like the bursty damage where I can delete someone really fast. That kind of playstyle, and that's what this build is really built around. Like, that's just the way the kind of gear I've been getting. Like this ring right here, I got this today. It has so much mastery on it, so I just decided to roll with the punches and get mastery, enchants, and all that stuff. Even this ring has mastery on it. Like, I'm just stacking a bunch of mastery. Definitely different than the typical average Joe Fury Warrior. They all get as many Cold Steel Hot Bloods as they can, which is, I can imagine, really good for survivability and consistent damage. But like I said, bursty build, that's what we're going for. So I have Insight the Pack. That also buffs my mastery. If it's not Insight the Pack, it's Trade Winds, which I'm pretty sure that they do the same exact thing. So it doesn't matter which one you get, just Insight the Pack or Trade Winds, or maybe even both. I could just imagine setting up a weak aura for Insight the Pack and Trade Winds, and seeing them both up and then popping your burst. I can only imagine what kind of damage you would do with 10 stacks of Death Wish and both those buffs up at the same time. Maybe even your Alchemist Stone proccing as well. Assuming that you're an Alchemist. That's the only way you would have this trinket. But that's the trinket that I run with there. You get a strength buff every once in a while. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling. This is my first guide, so keep that in mind. If it's all over the place, I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to go with the flow here and talk about the kind of character I built. So, yeah. Azerite Veins and Moment of Glory. These are huge for surviving because you get... Azerite Veins heals for a ton. I've noticed that it's healed for a lot in Battlegrounds and in World PvP especially. So I have 2 of them. And I didn't even intentionally get 2 of them. They just happened to be the traits that were in my gear, and I was like, I run Death Wish a lot, so maybe I want some healing traits. Something to survive with, you know? Survivability over damage when it comes to Death Wish, because Death Wish is going to do all that damaging work for you. I have 1 Cold Steel Hot Blood, and that is just, you know, stay on the safe side. Might as well have 1 Cold Steel Hot Blood if you can have it. But honestly, even if I didn't have 1, I wouldn't really be too worried about it. Just because my build doesn't really revolve around crit and Cold Steel Hot Blood, because that only works with critical strikes. So, yeah. And one other thing I want to talk about with my helmet and Moment of Glory. Moment of Glory buffs your Rallying Cry, which is this ability right here. And since I have that PvP talent that increases the amount of health it gives and reduces the cooldown on it, that syncs up really good with Moment of Glory and this corruption effect right here, Twilight Devastation, which does damage based on how much health you have in AoE. So combine that with the mastery that I have and the health that I'll get from using Rallying Cry. If that goes off while I'm enraged and I'm bursting and I got my mastery procs up, that can do some insane damage. Assuming that Twilight Devastation increases in damage when you're enraged with your mastery. That increases your base damage done while you're enraged, if that makes sense. That's why that really interests me, having that Moment of Glory there for Battlegrounds. Big AoE damage. Like, this is really a Battleground build right here. Yeah, Unstable Flames. I get increased critical strikes. You really can't go wrong with that. I love crits. I mean, they just pop out in your face. You know, they just feel so good. Crits everywhere. You gotta love it. You gotta get those Unstable Flames, man. So yeah, I have Unstable Flames and Gem Hide. Gemhide is really not the one that I want, but I think it's decent with Death Wish because you will take damage greater than 10% of your maximum health very often if you're running Death Wish, because you're a lot squishier when you run Death Wish. So, I mean, I guess I can see that trait being really good. It gives you avoidance and armor, which avoidance is really good in Battlegrounds because a lot of people are doing AoE abilities. And that's what avoidance does. Avoidance mitigates AoE damage that you take. So Gemhide I can see being okay. Not really the greatest, but it's okay. On my chest piece, I have Infinite Fury for increased critical strike chance after Recklessness, and if you're being consistent on your targets, your auto attacks refresh it, so you pretty much have a constant critical strike increase with Infinite Fury, and you're going to be hitting more crits with your execute, everything. You're just going to get more crit. Simmering Rage, that is something that you also want to have at least one of, because you get Rage back for every strike of your in rage, and I do not think that stacks if you're running more than one Simmering Rage. So just one Simmering Rage, that's really all you need. I got my second Azurite Veins there for more healing for survivability with Death Wish, and Bury the Hatchet for, again, more healing when running Death Wish. You will be getting a lot of killing blows with Death Wish. You might have seen in my recent videos, the Battlegrounds I get a ton of killing blows, and Victory Rushes really help keep the flow going. When you have your stacks of Death Wish, you get Absorb, and you get your Victory Rush. Like, it's just... this all works together really well, in my opinion, in Battlegrounds. Maybe not the best. Oh, and Pulverizing Blows. That's something I really don't care much about. I would rather maybe have something like another Mastery increase instead of Pulverizing Blows. I really don't care too much about Pulverizing Blows, but it's there. I have to deal with it, and that's what I got on this character. So yeah. I got some 460 bracers there with haste and verse and speed. Nothing really special there. I got Cut of Death. This is what you want in your main hand as a Fury Warrior. This is the go-to weapon. It's indestructible, and it does a bleed. And the bleed does a ton of damage, and it heals you. So there's more survivability from your weapon when you're running Death Wish. And that synergizes with that very well also. I run Cut of Death with the new axe Skushul Vaz. This corruption effect is actually huge. I've seen it do insane AoE damage and single target damage when it pops off. If you're enraged and you have your Death Wish with it, it does increase damage. I've seen it. I've seen the effect that it has with Death Wish and all that. So this is major to have, I'm telling you. You want this. Alchemist Stone for that extra strength. I already touched over that. Razan's Gleaming Eye. I get more haste with this. This is nice to have because that means that when this goes off, I'm going to have more haste. That way I'll be getting more rage, and I'll be enraged more often. Just in case my obsidian skin goes off while I'm enraged. You know, it's always best to be enraged as much as possible. So this helps with that when it goes off. Rings got Mastery. Boots got nothing, verse and Mastery. I got 8% versatility. I think that's a decent amount. You don't really need versatility as Fury, but you can't really say no to it, so it's there. But as you can see, I've been stacking a lot of Mastery. I want to get to 50% base Mastery. If I could sacrifice maybe some versatility for it, 3% versatility for 3% Mastery, I'd even be happy with. Maybe not haste. Haste is already at a little bit lower number than what I usually ran at. I used to have it at like 20 to 25% base haste. But the reason why I'm not so worried about haste is because I run Essence of the Focusing Iris as a minor, and that really keeps your haste at a good amount when you're fighting. So, and since I'm on my Heart of Azeroth right now, I might as well go over the essences that I run with this build. So, Blood of the Enemy in my major. This is key for deleting groups of people or even just one person. Like, if you want to do insane burst damage, run Blood of the Enemy. It syncs up perfectly with your Recklessness. Sorry, I got the hiccups. And Blood of the Enemy syncs up perfectly with Recklessness if you're not using Reckless Flurry as an Azurite trait. Beware of that. I don't run Reckless Flurry because of this. because Blood of the Enemy syncs up perfectly with it every single time that I use it. If I'm like waiting for the cooldown to be over and I'm in combat at the moment, it's like I want them both to be ready at the same time so that I can just pop them both ASAP. Essence of the Focusing Iris, Minor, Haste, Breath of the Dying, instant damage proc on anything. Even your heroic throw can set off a Breath of the Dying, so it's really overpowered. I've done like 25k heroic throws because of it, and heroic throw base hits for like 2k, so it's nice to have that. You know, it's just an extra proc for damage, and it works really well with haste as well, since you'll be attacking more often. Conflict and Strife. This is essential for PvP, because you get more versatility, which means you're more tanky, and you're going to be healing more with your healing build that you have running with Death Wish with this build. So Conflict and Strife always is a minor at least. I would sometimes even run Conflict and Strife in the major instead of Blood of the Enemy, so I can get Battle Trance to be more tanky in a sense. You'll be healing a lot more with Battle Trance, but since in Battlegrounds, Battle Trance really isn't that great because you'll be switching targets a lot. And if you hit anyone else with a Raging Blow while you have Battle Trance up, it's going to fade away your buff. So Battle Trance is really something that's a lot better for 2v2 arenas, and that's something that you'll see me use in 2v2 instead of Blood of the Enemy as a major. But I like to go Blood of the Enemy in Battlegrounds because you do big AoE burst, and you can destroy people with it. So yeah, those are my essences. That's my gear and my stats. So I touched all that. Now we can move on to add-ons. Let's talk about our add-ons. Alright, here, let's go to add-ons. So I got Bag None. That's just... It's a bag add-on. It has nothing to do with PvP, but those are my bags. That's what they look like because of it. If you don't want to have to click multiple bags, and if you run Bartender and you want a clean UI like this, I like to have one backpack there that I click, and then I have all my bags there when I click that one backpack. So that's nice to have with Bartender. Bartender takes a little while to set up, at least it did for my setup that I have here, and the only time I use Bartender is when I'm on this character and in Fury spec. If I'm in Arms or Protection, I just completely disable Bartender and I go back to the default UI because I don't want to have to go through the struggles of getting all these icons set up the way that I have them for Fury. Like, this is just a strictly Fury UI that I have here with Bartender. So yeah, just throwing that out there. Big debuffs. This is really good in PvP because when you're clicked on someone, like their unit frame, you can see if they're stunned or if they have a burst ability up. You'll see it in their character frame where their face is. So it kind of just puts buffs and debuffs right in your face so that you know you're more aware of what's going on in the moment. Cool Glow. This is just a cosmetic add-on, not really essential. I like to use it. There it is. If I right click it on my minimap, it shows the preview of what it looks like when things go off on my bars, like when I'm ready to rampage. It shows a red glow instead of the basic white glow. I like that little effect. I think it's pretty cool. It shows it for rampage and for executes, for victory rush when it goes off. My raging blows when it procs another one. If I can do it again, it has a 20% chance to instantly reset its cooldown, so that'll turn red as well. And I believe that's it. Yeah, that's everything that glows, and that's all cool glow effects. What else do we got here? Details. I don't run details in Battlegrounds because it tends to lag me because it's picking up the damage of the Horde and the Alliance. It might just be the fact that I don't really have the best PC of all. I mean, it's not that bad, but details lags me, so I just turn it off when I'm in a Battleground. I like to use it for dungeons and for world PvP and arenas, so that's when I'll have details on. It's just a basic damage meter. Diminish. I used to run Diminish, but now that I got threat plates, I noticed it was overlapping. And what Diminish is it's a DR tracker. So when you're in like a Battleground or even in the world PvP, you'll see the DR of your stuns or your fears, whatever kind of CC that's being used on people, you'll see the DR icon for it and the time left that it has over their health bar. So if you want something like that, it's called Diminish. I don't use it anymore because of the new nameplates add-on that I got. It was overlapping with CC that was being thrown on them. So now I don't really need it as much anymore because I can see with my new nameplates add-on the CC that's going on from like a mile away. So it's really nice. I just see a huge icon of like a cheap shot or a storm bolt or whatever kind of CC is being used on somebody. Then I'll have it in my mind that they were just CC'd. I shouldn't use one on them as well because DR. That's the only time you would need diminish, is if you want to track DR so you know when to CC and all that stuff. E-align. What this is if I type /align, it shows a grid. And this is how I set up my UI the way it is with my easy frames here. These unit frames, frequency. I have them perfectly lined up with each other with this add-on. That's just something I'm picky about, and that's why I got that add-on right there. You just type /align and it does that. There's easy frames. I just talked about that. I can go into my settings here if you want to see them. I'll go into easy frames, show you my player settings. This is the scale I have it at. I have it as class portrait for my character. I like seeing the warrior sword there. I think it's a cool little touch. The font size, I have it down to 10. Or no, wait. I think that's for the health. Actually, I don't know what that controls. It's not even moving anything on my frame. So, I don't know. I guess ignore this part. I think that's for what's inside the health bar, but it's not even changing it. So, I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's bugged or something. But yeah, down here, where it says show player name, you can turn that off. I can have my name off, but I like to see it. And font size, that's where you change it there. I have it on 14. That's what I use it. It's just so the whole name fits in there. And you can even change the color of your name. I have it on red. I think it looks pretty cool. And target, there's my target settings. Feel free to copy them. All that good stuff. Next add-on. Gathermate. This is for herbalism. This is a PvP guide, so I'm not even going to go over that. Gathermate, I mean, all it does is it shows where herbs are. Where you gathered herbs. Simple as that. Gladius, that's an arena add-on. Pretty much everybody knows about Gladius. I'm not going to cover that. Leatrix Plus, that is a miscellaneous add-on. It has nothing to do with PvP. But one thing that I really like about this, and that I've used, what I mainly use it for, is, let's see if I can find it here. Settings? No. Let's see, home? Where's it at? Automation? Oh, automation, I have release in PvP. Like if I'm in a battleground and I get killed, I'll instantly release, so I don't have to click it. And I mean, I guess it saves you time. Sell junk automatically, that's a nice little touch that this add-on has. What else we got here? Oh, system. This is what I like here. Mute game sounds. Check this out. If you go into the config in that area, you can disable fizzle. That's that annoying sound that you hear like when you're casting your spells and all that stuff. I have that checked so that I don't hear that at all when I'm fighting. It's a nice little touch because that sound really annoyed me personally. Sniffing, Worgen sniffing sounds will be muted. Traveling merchant greetings and farewells will be muted. Like to the mammoth and all that stuff, that's muted. I don't know, maybe you want that, but I don't know why I muted that. I guess I just did. So yeah, there it is. You can mute all kinds of stuff. You can do faster auto loot. That's really good for when I'm gathering herbs and ticking insignias, that kind of stuff. Faster movie skip, that's nice. Disable screen effects. The gray screen of death and the netherworld effect will be disabled. That's when you die. It won't be this really bright white gray screen of death. It'll just be the normal world and you'll be a ghost. That's what this add-on does there. So, yeah. That's all my settings in that add-on for you. What else do we have here? Master plan, that's for your garrison missions. I don't even use the garrison. I don't even know why I have that, but I do. So, yeah, let me take a sip of my coffee real quick. All this talking is kind of exhausting me. Okay. Sexy map. That just changes my map look. That's how I got that map look up there. Threat plates, that's the nameplate add-on that I use. Let's see if we can find something here to showcase what it looks like. I'm sure you've seen it in my other videos, you might not have, so I'm also gonna show you right now what that looks like. Let's go find something here. We find anything? Any kind of mob, please? Please? Ooh, it's foggy over here. Ooh. Spooky.
Which bears? No.
The Bear Witch Project. Okay, here we go. Here's an example of threat plates. That's what it looks like. I have it so that the names don't show, and when I do damage, it shows the percentage, as well as if I fear him. Oh, well, I couldn't fear because my axe went off, and I actually pressed fear, so now we can't even see the CC that it did. But I'll just tell you what it does. When you fear, when you stun, it shows a big icon above the nameplate and the duration it has left. So that's just good to see there. So when you're like timing, you can fear out of a stun, or you can disarm out of a stun appropriately according to that timer. That's what I use that for. So what else we got? Weak auras. I'm gonna go over my weak auras when I get into my rotation, my PvP rotation with Death Wish and all that stuff. I'll get into what kind of weak auras that I have set up, so that maybe you could use the same. We'll get on that later. Trophy GCD. That's what you see in the upper left corner of my screen when I'm doing things. Whirlwind, leap there. It shows the icon of the ability that I just used. So that's what Trophy GCD does. That's what I have that for. What else? Weak auras, I've already covered that. World Quest Tracker, that just tracks your world quests, yada yada yada. You only hear once, that's just so I don't get those windows in the middle of my screen when I'm going up to a zone for a world quest or something like that. Narcissus. This is the add-on that I use to show my gear in like the beginning of Battleground videos. And in some of my recent videos that I've made, this is what I've used to showcase gear. It just looks clean. I just like the look of it. You can even change your name up here. Switch to player name, switch to alias, frequency, bound by honor. It shows your corruption. If you hover over it, it shows the little effect there too, and the effects that it has on you, what damage it does as well. I think that's a cool touch it has. It shows your stats, what you have mostly, all that stuff. Even your rage. It shows that you have 100 rage. So with this add-on, you'll know that you have 100 rage. That's your maximum rage. So that's very nice to have, you know? What else do we have? Deadly boss mods. Okay, that's it. That's it for add-ons. Deadly boss mods, that's for raiding and for mythics and all that, and I'm not covering that. This is a PvP guide. So, now that we covered all of our add-ons and all that stuff, we can get into our final part of the video, and that is rotation. Alright, we're here in Borealis. We got this target dummy staring at us in front of us, and I'm going to show you how I use Death Wish and how I hit them big executes with this build. So, while I'm doing my rotation, I'm also going to cover the weak auras that are going on and what they do and what they represent and all that stuff. And then I'm going to save how to set up these weak auras for another video. If that's something that you would want, let me know. Because some people don't know how to use weak auras, and I made all my own weak auras. Here, I'll show you. These are all my weak auras that I use. If you want to know how to make them and, you know, set up the same way that I have them, then I'll do that in another video. But for now, I'm just going to, you know, when I'm doing my rotation, I'm going to go over what represents what and how it determines my rotation and how it, you know, yeah, exactly, how it determines when I'll burst. mean, it's pretty fun. And it looks like Twilight Devastation did some insane damage there. 6% of my health, it said, and that was a 77k Twilight Devastation it looked like. So I think it does buff off of Mastery and your Enrage and your Death Wish. So that's good to know. I like that. I really do. I really like that. Siegebreaker, Rampage, Dragon Roar. That's without the Mastery buff, and that without Blood of the Enemy, it was a 62k non-crit, which is still decent. So yeah. And I don't think this target dummy is really accurate for player damage, but at the end of the video, I'm going to show you some clips that I got today, PvPing with these new traits that I have, and the Mastery stats that I started stacking after this reset today. So yeah. That being said, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something out of it. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.